A brutal crime fueled by obsession, a desperate escape, and a justice system determined to see it through. This is the story of Brad Keith Sigmon, a man now counting down his final days on death row. But what led to this chilling sequence of events? Stay with us as we unravel the harrowing details of a case that shook South Carolina. Before we dive in, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update on the darkest true crime cases. Brad Keith Sigmon sits in his Stark prison cell at Broad River Correctional Institution, awaiting the inevitable. March 7, 2025, looms closer, a date set in stone by the South Carolina Supreme Court. After years of legal battles, stays of execution, and changes in the state's execution policies, the time has come for justice to be served. Sigmon, now 67 years old, was convicted for the brutal murders of David and Gladys Lark on April 27, 2001. What had started as an obsession over his ex-girlfriend, Rebecca Barbar, also known as Becky, spiraled into a monstrous act of violence. Sigmon had never been a man to handle rejection well. For 3 years, he and Rebecca Lark had shared a life, tangled in love and arguments, in a small trailer on her parents' property. But when Becky told him it was over, something inside him twisted. He begged. He pleaded. But she had made up her mind. Her father, David Lark, had made it clear as well. He handed Sigmon the eviction papers himself, giving him 2 weeks to vacate the trailer. Becky had moved in with her parents next door, and Sigmon convinced himself she had taken up with another man. The thought gnawed at him, consumed him. He followed her, stalked her, trying to catch a glimpse of this phantom lover. But Becky wanted nothing to do with him. One night, Sigmon found himself drinking and smoking crack cocaine in Becky's empty trailer with his friend Eugene Strube. The rage inside him had been simmering for days, and the substances only stoked the fire. Somewhere in the haze, a plan formed. In the morning, after Becky left to take her children to school, he would enter her parents' home. He would tie up David and Gladys so they couldn't call for help. Then, he would wait for Becky. When she came home, he would take her, and they would disappear together. Sigmon didn't tell Strube all the details, but when morning came and Becky drove off, they both stepped out of the trailer. That was when Strube hesitated. Whether it was fear or conscience, he wanted no part of what was about to happen. Without a word, he turned and left. Sigmon was undeterred. He reached beneath the trailer, his fingers closing around the handle of a baseball bat. He walked toward the Larks' home, stepped inside, and locked eyes with David. David understood the danger instantly. "Gladys, get my gun." But Sigmon was already moving. The bat came down on the back of David's head, once, twice, 3 times. The man collapsed, blood pooling beneath him. Gladys screamed. She turned to flee, but Sigmon was faster. He chased her into the living room, the bat swinging wildly. Gladys crumpled to the floor. David was still moving. Sigmon turned back to the kitchen, gripping the bat tighter, and brought it down again and again until David's body lay still. The rage still surged through him. He returned to the living room where Gladys clung to life. He raised the bat one final time. Sigmon retrieved David's gun and positioned himself to wait for Becky's return. When she arrived, he confronted her with the weapon, seized her car keys, and forced her into the vehicle. As they drove, Becky saw her chance. She flung the door open and leapt from the moving vehicle, desperate to escape. Sigmon slammed the brakes. Without hesitation, he bolted after her, gun in hand. Shots rang out as he fired multiple times, striking her. Becky collapsed, wounded but alive. As he pulled the trigger again, the gun clicked empty. Realizing he was out of bullets, Sigmon abandoned his pursuit. He climbed back into her car and sped away, leaving Becky bleeding on the roadside. Despite her injuries, Becky survived. When witnesses rushed to her aid, she gasped out the chilling revelation. Sigmon had told her he had either tied up or killed her parents. Authorities were immediately dispatched to the Larks' home. What they found confirmed the worst. David and Gladys lay lifeless inside. Captured after an 11-day manhunt in Tennessee, Sigmon faced a swift and damning trial. The jury found him guilty of double homicide and burglary, and the court sentenced him to death. Over the years, Sigmon's attempts to avoid his fate through legal appeals were systematically denied, each ruling inching him closer to his inevitable end. On December 19, 2005, the South Carolina Supreme Court rejected his direct appeal against both his death sentences and his double murder conviction. Then, on May 8, 2013, his second appeal to the state's highest court met the same fate. As time went on, his hopes for reprieve grew even more distant. On September 30, 2018, the U.S. District Court for the District of South Carolina dismissed his first federal appeal, and 2 years later, on April 14, 2020, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals followed suit, rejecting his case once again. Finally, on January 11, 2021, Sigmon's last chance for a reprieve was extinguished when the U.S. Supreme Court dismissed his final appeal. Even attempts to challenge South Carolina's execution methods, whether by lethal injection, electrocution, or firing squad, proved fruitless. The court stood by the state's methods, dismissing claims that these alternatives amounted to cruel and unusual punishment. Sigmon has reportedly transformed into a model prisoner, devoting himself to his faith and striving for repentance. His legal team claims that he has remained free from any violent incidents while incarcerated and has gained the trust of correctional officers. They have assigned him responsibilities, including distributing food trays, cleaning, and overseeing laundry services. Additionally, Sigmon has taken on a mentorship role, offering spiritual guidance and support to his fellow inmates. However, despite his generally positive conduct, Sigmon has faced disciplinary actions. South Carolina Department of Corrections records show that he was penalized for contraband possession in 2012, unauthorized substance use in 2015, and disrespectful behavior in 2016. These violations led to temporary restrictions on privileges such as access to the canteen, phone calls, and visitation. As of February 2025, Sigmon's health has significantly declined, having experienced at least one stroke and grappling with severe cardiovascular problems. His legal team stresses his profound remorse for his crimes and underscores the efforts he has made to atone during his long years on death row. With just weeks remaining, Sigmon's world has shrunk to a series of ritualistic routines. Every day, he wakes to the metallic clang of doors unlocking, the murmurs of other inmates, and the distant shuffling of guards on their rounds. Though he has yet to announce his choice of execution method, time is running out. If he does not decide, the electric chair awaits him, a relic of justice long debated in South Carolina's courtrooms. The thought of it must weigh heavily on him, but Sigmon remains quiet, his inner thoughts unknown to the world. Beyond the prison walls, the families of David and Gladys Lark await closure. For them, the execution of the man who destroyed their lives is not a moment of triumph, but a long-awaited conclusion to a suffering that has lasted more than 20 years. Rebecca Barbar, the woman who narrowly escaped Sigmon's violence, has chosen to stay out of the public spotlight. Perhaps, like the Larks, she too waits for the day when his name will finally vanish from the headlines. As March 7th approaches, the reality of execution becomes ever more tangible. The final walk, the restraints, the cold reality of a steel chair or an injection room, Sigmon has seen others go before him. Now, he faces the same fate. Whether he meets his end with defiance, resignation, or remorse remains to be seen. What are your thoughts on this case? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more chilling true crime stories.